Hey, church, it is Friday, April 10th, so Good Friday out to you. Hopefully, you can watch the Good Friday service we put together at 7 o'clock tonight. I'm working in the office today. I'm working on the message for Easter Sunday, and I got that finished up. I'll film that tomorrow and get it to you on Easter Sunday. Looking forward to that. I did want to give you a little, while I'm in the office, I thought I'd give you a kind of how I figure out some of the by the numbers and statistics. And my observations on things have been pretty correct. And the only reason they're correct is I'm trying to just work on basic numbers and statistics that are already out there. So I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball or anything. I'm just using what's already before us. So the main reason I've gotten involved with this and am interested in it is because I really just want to know the reality of what's going on, think on what's true, and I really think the media, they're out to make money, and like any business, and so they need to drum up business, so they're trying to get the craziest stories that you'll look at. So anyway, here's some of the facts of what's going on, some of the websites I use to figure some of this stuff out. So I'm just going to move this over here so you can see the computer. This actually is Worldometers, their website. And so what I do is, this is the United States. If you go back here to countries, it shows you the world coronavirus cases, and then all the countries pop up. And so I've been tracking United States, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, just tracking these countries. And so for us, just I want to give you a quick look at for our nation, what I look at. Here's today's numbers. And so you could look at now and then yesterday is interesting, but also these numbers are pretty firm as of 6 o'clock. They get pretty firmed up because they're working off of GMT time. And so that's a little bit ahead of us over in Greenwich. So for today, for instance, we are at 1,947 new deaths. There's still, Washington hasn't checked in yet. But then you go down, and this is where you get your graphs. So here's your total cases, which is an interesting graph, and then your daily new cases in the United States. So here's where I started tracking around March 15th. That takes 20 to 30 days to cap out. So 20, 30 days puts us right in this ballpark right here. So you can see we're starting to flatten out. But again, I don't put a whole lot of stock in the new cases because the testing's so poor in our country, especially in California. My neighbor back in early March had like pneumonia-like symptoms and went in for a CT scan and saw a bunch of weird stuff in his lungs and just sent him home. They didn't even give him a test. I was sick, as you know. I called in and gave my symptoms. Some of them were COVID kind of symptoms, pink eye, sore throat, but I didn't have a fever, and they didn't even say, hey, why don't you come in and get a test just to make sure, just stay home and have some chicken noodle soup. So anyway, here's the active cases. This is an interesting chart to monitor too. You can see we're still on the rise there for active cases. Deaths, I think, is one statistic that's hard to get around, is the total deaths. Although there is a little bit of question about that, but this is, to me, one of the best things to look at. So you can see our death rate is going down, but today it'll probably pop up a little bit. Also realize on the weekends things tend to drop a little bit because I think less people go to the hospital on the weekends for whatever reason. So something to keep in mind as well there. So that's the United States. And then let's look at like another country that we can track. So like Spain is a good one to track. Spain and Italy are both about 1/6 our size. So all their numbers should be about 1/6 of the United States, which it's close. We're actually doing better if you relate to size with their country, but you can see their total cases starting to flatten out. Here's their new daily cases, definitely after that 20, 30-day mark. And then also notice there's about an 8 or 9 day kind of at the top range. So we're about at that 8 or 9 day range as well. So hopefully we'll start seeing numbers like they're seeing. They just started earlier though, so you can see kind of over here, they were more at the March 10th date, so they're about 5 days in front of us. Here's their active new cases, really starting to flatten out, so that's good. Daily deaths are starting to go down, that's good as well. Let's take a quick peek at, one of the countries we're actually watching to see how their re-entry is going is the country of Austria. So if we want to take a quick peek at Austria down here. And so their total cases, you notice this is still going up. Here's their daily new cases. They've definitely peaked and then they're coming back down. Here's their active cases. So you can see their active cases are really starting to come down, which is a really good sign. And then daily new deaths in Austria are still kind of at that hovering around the same level because deaths follow the daily new cases. So you have to come in with a severe new case, they test you, and then, you know, some make it, some don't, but that's the daily deaths there. So so that's on like a bigger global scale. That's how I track this stuff, just so you know. And then also on a more local level, the best graph I found is actually from the LA Times. So if you put in LA Times coronavirus tracking, so we just click on that. And then the LA Times gives us a pretty good look at the graphs for California. So here's some of the graphs that kind of what we've been looking at for Worldometer. Here's the new cases by day. So you can see in California, it looks like we've probably peaked here and are starting to come back down. And then deaths by day has also looked like it peaked and is starting to come back down as well. So there's some big questions right now as far as like why didn't things happen in San Francisco and in Los Angeles like they're happening in New York and in New Jersey? So why haven't our big cities seen the kind of problems that are seen in New York? There's a couple of theories for that. First of all, we might have gotten this virus first. So for instance, like my family, we were in Los Angeles at the end of January. We went to Disneyland with a family trip and we flew into LAX, and also a ton of people from China flew into LAX apparently. And while we're in Disneyland, like there's, you know, tons of people, Chinese people wearing masks, and we knew there was something going on in China but didn't know the extent or the severity of it. So like if they're coming from Wuhan and they're bringing that virus with them, which potentially they are, right? And so if the exponential spread is as accurate as they say it is, like 33% a day, that puts us at least mid to late January all the way to mid to late March by the time we're doing our shelter in place. So that's January and February, about 2 months worth of that exponential spread. So it's very likely that Californians got it. I had people close in my family that had pneumonia pretty much all of February. They didn't really know what was going on. Now probably they do know what's going on. And so it could be where we've created a herd, what's it called? A herd immunity to this virus, which is over 50% of the population have had it, and maybe are asymptomatic or symptomatic, but we don't really know for sure yet. Stanford is doing big tests this weekend on checking on that to see how many people have already had the coronavirus in California. So we'll know a lot by Monday, Tuesday of next week. Also, we have a warmer climate here in California than they do in New York and New Jersey. So maybe in a warmer climate, this virus hasn't spread as much or is as strong. Also, there's a thought that the Californians are a little more healthier than New Yorkers. That's just one thing that's out there. Definitely poor health impacts this virus and viruses in general. And then also something that was interesting to me, there's so many unclaimed dead bodies in New York, which is really interesting. Like, why are there so many unclaimed dead bodies? My guess would be there are a lot of people who are homeless or drug addicts or just people are kind of on their own that ended up getting this and dying. So a lot of people that are already pretty sick got this. It's just a theory. And then the other thing that's encouraging is we're in better shape than the countries who already got this and are coming back down, because there's so many more medical advances and technology and things we know about this as well. So that's encouraging. When things do start to reopen, I saw today there was a link that Mendocino County is already starting to reopen some things for their local people, which I thought was cool. But this will go in stages, just like we got the shutdown in stages. We'll reopen in stages as well. So probably the parks and the beaches are going to be the first things to open back up, and then small businesses, and then public sector, schools. And then also it'll be the more rural areas that open up first, and then into the more dense areas like the big cities. So anyway, just some things to be thinking about. And that's it for today. Love you. Bye.